So it's Sunday and we're here on the Gen Con trade floor with Eric and Nick from Weird Miniatures, and they're going to tell us a little bit about the background for Malefaux.
So welcome to the world of Malefaux. We have a skirmish game that we're just working on putting out now. It's set in a sort of alternate world where magic is much more prevalent. It's the basic concept is that there's a world much like 18th century industrialized, or beginning to become industrialized, but in a world there's also some magic, until they found a breach through to another world which was very, very magical. Obviously this was a source of power, so it drew quite a bit of interest until the breach closed. Who's left in there suddenly discovered that this was a much more dangerous and unforgiving world than they originally anticipated. So we find our heroes, or lack thereof, in a world where it's pretty much a very cutthroat situation. There aren't any good guys, really, unfortunately, hard to say. But the basic breakdown is we have 5 factions, and loosely they're based. The idea is that they're essentially four forms of magic, and then a group of people who found that they can work off the ambient magic, not one of the main powers. These are represented by the four suits in the deck. And the first thing you'll notice if you play Malefaux is that it's a card-driven game based on a normal 54 card deck with the Jokers in 4 suits. Well, anyway, we have our 4 factions. The first and the closest thing to the good guys that we have is the Guild. They consider themselves the law, but really they are trying to keep their own personal control and power, and have very little respect or care for the average citizen. Second, we have the Neverborn. The Neverborn are the natives of the land, and really one of the main reasons why it's so unforgiving. Here you'll have anything from goblins to demons to any sort of other nightmare you might be able to think up. Next we have the Resurrectionists, which are that faction which learn to use a life force to obviously bring things back to life, but of course not the way they went. A little bit of a Pet Cemetery situation where they end up with zombies. Anyway, and then finally we have the Arcanists, who are the pure magic users. We're able to tap into the more primal force and magic in the land and make the biggest booms, essentially. The 5th faction is just the mercenary faction, which is they're mercenaries. They can either be played as a faction all unto themselves, or they're the only faction that can actually be hired by masters of another faction. The premise of the game, or the scale of the game, is essentially a character-driven skirmish game where you have, the basic games is about 5 to 8 miniatures. You have very characterful miniatures on each side. Both, almost everyone in the game has a variety of spells and abilities that are relatively unique. Some of them are absolutely unique to that character. We have we have an online magazine now where we were really trying to give you the background, the fiction, fluff on pretty much every miniature you'll find on the board. So creating a game where it's much more than just miniatures and rules. So that's essentially the basic premise, and I hope you enjoy it.
So Nick, what else can you add for us?
I would say, as far as the fiction and the atmosphere of the game, I think that the Weird West motif is the most prevalent, but as far as the fiction, we would like to stress the Victorian horror aspect that also occurs there. It's not just a zombie apocalypse or a Wild West shootout, that there are subtle mysteries that exist in Malefaux, and that it's also a brutal and dangerous place, not just for the heroes and the characters, but just for everyday people. People go to work in the mines, they die every day, that there's Neverborn that attack. Neverborn are the monstrous type characters that attack, and it's a brutal place to live, and each of the different factions are vying for control of this precious resource that only exists in Malefaux. And each of them succeeds sometimes and fails another, and it's a very
So what's this resource that everyone's trying to?
Well, it's in Malefaux. There's a particular mineral that can be mined that enhances a character's magical ability, and it's called Soulstone. And it's mined in Malefaux. What creates the Soulstone, where it comes from, is one of the enduring mysteries of Malefaux, and why it doesn't exist in Earth, and why it exists in this parallel connected dimension is currently unknown.
So now, as Eric was saying, the connection between Malefaux and Earth has been broken, and so people can't travel back.
There was a period of time where it was broken, and what took place in that period of time is unknown, except for there are few, if any, survivors. Right now, that there's actually a train that leads through the breach between the worlds and ferries people between Earth and this dimension on a daily basis.
So the scenarios and stuff that players are going to be gaming with, are they going to be set on Earth, or are they going to be set in Malefaux?
That will be set in Malefaux. Yes.
And while there is this train, it's controlled by the guild. To get back, if you're anything other than the guild, and even anything other than a high-ranking member of the guild, might be a chore unto itself.
So it's a bit of a one-way ticket for most people.
One way. It's the vacation you never come home from. And one thing you didn't mention about the Soulstone, while it is a stone which powers magic, the detail that he missed on was that they can be recharged by being near someone as they're dying. In its essence, it's called a Soulstone because it collects their soul. So it's become the currency, largely become a currency in Malefaux, and a resource, and in game terms, it powers much of the magic that happens.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much.
Oh, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.